Okay, good afternoon and welcome to chapter 21 of The Living Marriage. Today we're starting lesson number 7 titled Understanding Love. There's 3 parts to this section. I'm, for simplicity's sake, calling it chapter 21. This chapter is titled A Common Mistake. What is the source of love? Question mark. So he opens the chapter, the foundation of marriage is a vibrant relationship of love. Before beginning to examine the essence of love, it's important to point out there's a very common mistake regarding the source of love that comes from the street. Those terrible streets out there. Love of the street. What is love of the street? External factors awaken love within a person. When a person acts in a way that inspires me to love them, then I will automatically love them. A person almost cause quote unquote forced to love others who do things that stimulate his love. From the perspective of the street, the power of love is not in a person's hands. Depend on constantly changing external factors, it's an undependable emotion that comes and goes as fast as the wind. This understanding of love is a complete mistake, and anyone who accepts such a perspective will find it very difficult to build a relationship of love with anyone. A father who only loves his child when he does what the father wants is not acting as a father at all and will prevent any natural paternal love from blossoming. So too husbands and wives who only love their spouses when they find favor in their eyes haven't begun to touch the love of marriage. This is the true of every type of love relationship. Okay, the Torah perspective of what is that? According to the Torah, love begins with the person himself who chooses to love, and it isn't dependent on the actions of others. This is obvious from the commandment of the Torah. You must love your neighbor like yourself. Ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Certainly Hashem wouldn't command us to do something that wasn't in our hands. With these words, the Torah reveals that you have the ability to love any person within the Jewish nation, whether he's like you or not. Now, it seems only in the Jewish nation. You can't love someone who is not Jewish, whether he's from your group of friends or not, and even if you never met him. In fact, the Torah doesn't only teach that it is possible for you to love every Jew, you are obligated to do so. People generally tend to associate those who are relatively similar to themselves in some way. And this is the group they consider their friends and loved ones, while the other 91% of the population are quote unquote the people they don't fight with. Believing the lack of similarity excludes the possibility of a close relationship. The potential connection remains dormant. This is a direct expression of the damage caused by the misunderstanding of love that we described above. When a person defines love as an emotion stimulated by external influence, he will look at the people around him who are not similar to himself as strangers, who are simply missing the integral ingredient of love. Such a person might even pat himself on the back because he can fulfill the obligation of loving one's neighbor, even if they don't do much for him. His lack of love for the rest of the population is simply not in his hands. In truth, due to this person's understanding of love, he has negated the obligation of loving one's neighbor with 95% of our nation, and perhaps he doesn't even really love the people that are similar to him. Okay? They told you what the Western world feels. Love is stimulated by emotion, just happens naturally. You gravitate towards certain people. And love of the Torah is something that you choose to love. I choose to love my wife. I choose to love my parents. I choose to love God. There's no mitzvah to love your parents, but I choose to love my friend. So I choose the mitzvah in the Torah to love the ger. I love the ger. So somehow I choose to do this. Now, when I was becoming more yeshivish, this idea made a lot of sense to me. Like, how could it be that, the Torah commands you on emotions, right? Love is an emotion. Love is a feeling. How could the Torah tell you how to feel, command you how to feel? So the answer I was given is that, the Mesilas Yesharim says, based on your actions, the heart, goes after your actions. So if you give to someone, I read in Rav Dessler, he doesn't mention Rav Dessler over here. Ahava comes from the Aramaic word hav, to give. When I give to somebody and I care about that person, that will engender love for that person. So if I act like I like a person, it will cause the feelings in my heart to actualize. The mitzvah obviously is in your heart, right? To love the person, to feel a love for the person, but it's in our hands by the actions we choose, by being nice to other people, caring about other people, giving to other people, and then we can love that person. Now, technically, if you interpret it, that you have to love every Jew like yourself, that means you have you have a hard work in front of you, because if it's in your hands, that means I have to have a connection with every Jew in the world. I have to, because the only way I'm going to attain that love for them is to go ahead and give something to them, to know about them, to care about them, to feel about them. He says it's possible to love people that I've never met. How is it possible? If you have to do something positive to attain that love. So if most Jews, there's 14 million halachic Jews in the world, you might encounter maybe, I don't know, 10,000 in your life. What about the rest of the other 13 plus million that you're never going to meet? how are you going to love those people if you never had any relationship with them? Even the 10,000 that you meet, how many you're going to have a close enough relationship that you're doing enough to care about them? That's why I believe Ahav L'Reach Kamocha only applies to your wife. The Gemara in Kedushin says on Daf Mem Aleph 41a, I believe the Gemara says that you have to see your wife before you're Mekadesh her, because if you don't see her, you might see a mum in her. You might get married to her and you realize that she has some sort of blemish somewhere on her face, under her clothes. We'll leave that for a different time. But and you're disgusted by her, and you're going to hate her, and the Gemara says you're not going to fulfill the mitzvah Ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha. Now, why is it possessed by Adonai Kamocha? Only by your wife, and Rhea is like a close friend. Reim, we say the Chasan Kala, Reim Ahuvim, they're called in the Brachas Chasan Kala, Reim Ahuvim. Right there, that's a real friendship. You have to have a real friendship. How many real friends do people have? I mean, honestly, we all grow up and we want to be the most popular kid, or if you're not going to be the most popular kid, you want to be associated with the most popular kid. It's about being cool, being popular when you're growing up in your teenage years. And everyone's, your social status is dependent on how many friends, quote unquote, you really have. Now, anyone who's a mature person and realizes what a friend really is, before you're married, you have room for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 friends, good friends. After you're married, you have room for maybe 1 good friend. You don't have time for it, especially with wife and kids. I don't think you have it. It's a good thing to have a friend if it works out for you. A friendship has to be mutually beneficial for both of you, and if one of them is doing a chesed for the other one, right, for whatever reason, because in the Jewish nation, the frum world, people do chesed sometimes even without knowing they're doing chesed or wanting to do chesed. They're just drawn to do chesed. There's so much push to do chesed in our community, so people do a chesed and are friends with someone else. A lot of our friendships we're doing a chesed. We feel we're doing a chesed to the other person, and they feel they're doing a chesed to us, being friends with us. Neither of us wants to be friends with the other person. A friendship has to be starting. There's 2 different words. There's like and love. Ava usually means to love someone. That's how we translate the word ava. But there's a different word called the like. And when, let's say you meet a girl, you go out with a girl, you meet her the first time, right? You like her, right? That's the way you describe it. You don't say, I love the girl. I mean, most people say, I'm in love with her. I mean, it generally takes meeting her a couple more times than one time. Just to see a girl and to meet her once, you say, I like her. What do you like about her? I like the way she looks. I like her personality. I like her character traits. Okay, you can like her, right? And like is the same word as like. Like me, right? L'havta l'reacha kamocha, right? It's the mitzvah of the Torah is to love, I believe, only your wife, kamocha, like you love yourself. And he does point this out, although briefly. I wish he would have elaborated on this, because this is so fundamental to love itself and to the Torah, but he only mentions it in passing. But he does mention this. I want to read what he says, because even the author, who I disagree with a lot of points, he says something that's really importantly true. I've emphasized this many times. He says in the middle of the chapter, correcting another common mistake. From the words he says of the Sefer Ikarim, we can also glean clarity in another aspect of love. There is a confusion regarding love, which is a result of a certain idea found in the works of later rabbis of this generation that have absolutely no source in Chazal or any Rishonim or Achronim. It is based on a primarily Christian concept that the source of evil is the quote-unquote me. Worrying about oneself is bad, and worrying about others is good. This mistake leads him to believe that the essence of love, which is good, is based on giving to others without thinking about oneself. This understanding of love has no source at all in the wisdom of the Torah. It is essential to understand that as opposed to the Christian philosophy, just as there is a negative ego, there's also a positive ego. This is easy to see from the Torah itself. It instructs us, love your neighbor like yourself. Bolded yourself. From these words, it is obvious that loving oneself is potentially a good thing. Potentially, it is. And from this we learn how we must love others. Okay, I wish he would elaborate more, but he just goes on to talk about whatever he wants to talk about in this chapter, about controlling your emotions and the choice to love, and you can do it. He doesn't really explain how you're supposed to love someone. Again, a lot of the ideas that are brought in this book. I wish there were more specific examples. I feel in this book and a lot of other books I read in this community, in the frum community, there's very little details. We talk about ideas in general ways, but we don't give details. And when we don't give details, people can misconstrue whatever you had in mind is probably something very different than what other people who are reading it take, because they apply their own examples. If you're not going to give the example, no one can relate to what you're saying. So it's very frustrating that he hasn't given any examples. But this idea is really fundamental to ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Who comes first? You come first, no matter you're not married. You're married. You're a father. You're a husband. You're a son. You're a parent. Doesn't make a difference. Whatever relationship you have, even though your wife, she's number two, should be number two, right? You leave your parents, you davak leishto. Your wife should never be more important than yourself. You can love her equal to yourself. You can even machabit her more than you would, right? Than the deficiencies that you have. That's how I explain. I don't think you have to honor her more than yourself, right? Things that are you have and she has deficiencies in, you should honor her in those, meaning not, divulge or not belittle her in the things where she's weak at. As we talked about honoring in the last chapter. But this is about love and drawing close. And love is really, it starts off with liking someone. You see things in the person you like. Now, everyone has positive characteristics and negative characteristics. Some people are good looking. Some people, have talent. Some people have a nice personality. Some people have good character traits. And every person has bad parts to himself also. So some people have a lot of good things, very few bad things. Some people have a lot of bad things, very few good things. But everyone has some good, and everyone has some bad. So when you want to make a friend, we're not going to get to a wife for a second. Unless you want to make a friend, colloquially a friend. I'm going to be a friend with another man, right? Not a woman. Only friend of a woman is my wife. I want to be a friend who's a man. So he's going to share a lot of the interests that I enjoy. We're going to talk about things that we both enjoy talking about. And we're going to talk about those things, and we're going to spend time together when it's mutually good for me and mutually good for him. Which, if you're, friends with another man who's married, it's not going to be quite often. But you know what? That's life. That's the point of it. People who over-exaggerate themselves and people are married and say they have a lot of friends. They have no friends. It's the honest truth. It's impossible. You can't have a lot of friends. You can have one friend. That's all you can have. If you say you can have no friends or one friend, there's only two possibilities. If you say you have a lot of friends, it means you have no friends. A lot of people have a lot of friends. They invite hundreds of people to their weddings, all their associates, all their, people, friends from shul, and their friends in the community. But in reality, they just want to, just like everybody else, they want to put on a show and show how popular they are because they never really grew up, because they're still right in high school. And, how many friends does this person have? How many people am I invited to my wedding? Right? So we're all doing this to show off to other people. We're going to go in poverty and debt just to pay for these huge weddings, just to show other people how many friends we really don't have. But people think that we might have because they're invited to our weddings, and they put the place cards, you have to strategically place which people next to each other based on your hierarchy. Is this a really close friend of mine, or is it a semi-close friend, or just an acquaintance I'm a little friendly with? If you're making those distinctions, you have no concept of what a friend really is, to be honest with you. Probably because you're not capable of having friends, and most people are not capable of having friends, because in order to have friends, you have to have opinions, and you have to have a personality. And if you don't have a personality, you don't have opinions. And because the frum community takes away your ability to have opinions, because you're not allowed to have opinions on anything but Torah. Even in Torah, you're not allowed to have opinions, because if it's against the Gedolim, they don't have their opinion. If you go against that, so you can't have your own opinion even in Torah. So you can't have any opinions. So you can't have any friends. You can't have any friends in the frum world. It's impossible. If you're in the non-frum world, you have interests, you have likes, you like certain music, you like certain sports team, a sport, you like different types of conversation, different type of politics. You can connect. You can talk about this. You can have a discussion. You can create a friendship, a bond. But that's a friendship between a man and a man, or a woman to a woman. It's possible to have one friend. Maybe when you have more free time, when you don't have a job, when you don't have a family, you can have a couple of friends. But Haftar Mocha is talking about your wife, like the Gemara says. The Gemara, right? The Gemara in Shabbos says, right? They asked Hillel and Shammai, what is one thing? Teach me Torah al regal achas. And Hillel said, Mahadasan lach lo savid lechavrecha. Things you hate, don't do to your friend. It doesn't say, right, v'hafta re'echa, because you said v'hafta re'echa kamocha, and the Mefarshim discuss why didn't he say v'hafta re'echa kamocha? The answer is because the mitzvah v'hafta re'echa kamocha does not apply to every Jew. It's impossible. The Torah commands you, right, especially according to the author is saying that you're in control and you have to make sure you create a relationship with every Jew. You're not going to meet most Jews. You're not going to have the time to create relationships with all the Jews that you meet. So it's impossible. It just means that you should have the good character traits of things that you hate. You shouldn't do to other people because that's a bad midah in yourself. It's a bad character trait. That's what it doesn't say and other mafarshim that say that's basically what he's saying is wrong. Because that's not what the Gemara says. So that's very important. The Gemara in Kedushin clearly says that is by your wife, and their wife is, they say is your best friend, should be your best friend. I don't know if your wife has to be your best friend, because a lot of times when we meet our wives, especially in the frum community, we go out with them, 5, 6, 12 times, let's say in America. You don't really know the person until you marry them, and a lot of times you find out that the dates are so superficial and so set up, and so formalized that a lot of people don't reveal their real selves until they're actually married, maybe a couple years into the marriage, and you realize this person has nothing to do with you. But that doesn't stop the mitzvah of Ahavta Kamocha. And in this regard, I do believe that although it's not completely in your realm, emotions are not in your realm, and the reason the Torah is obligating you Ahavta Kamocha is there's only one person you really have to love, and that is yourself. That is yourself. I believe the mitzvah of Avos Hashem really is to find the love, to love the divine aspect inside of you. Right? Everyone has born, they say, a pintel year with a neshama, part of Hashem, chelek Hashem emal, the Kabbalah Sfarim say. So, whatever that means, but a part of God is in you. You're potentially a godly person. So to love yourself, and that is the hardest thing. I mentioned this episode from Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld, goes out with a lot of women. Every show he's going out with a different girlfriend. A lot of them are very good looking. I always find it funny how Jerry always gets the good looking girls and George and Kramer don't. But, because he has a sense of humor, so I guess that's why he gets the good looking girls. And he's actually met a girl. They never get married during the show, but he's pondering about getting married to one girl. She's not even attractive, but the reason he likes her is because she's exactly like him. She even goes to the coffee shop and orders cereal at the coffee shop. So he's like, I love this woman. I want to marry this woman. And at the end, he gives up and he says, I can't go through with it because even though this woman is exactly like me, I hate myself. If you hate yourself, someone who's going to be exactly like you, you're going to hate them also. It's never going to be successful. The key to loving somebody else is to find within yourself what you like. And unfortunately, we don't think about these things too often, and it's an introspection, we think when a person does cheshbon and nefesh and they think about, the right decisions to make in life, you think about how I should treat other people, not insulting other people, being careful with money and things like that, and being a fair person. But no one really thinks about, what's good for me? What do I really like? What types of foods do I really like? What type of politics? What are my political views? What type of music do I really like? What type of singer do I like? What type of, clothing do I like? What type of style do I like? What type of home decor do I like? What type of sports do I like? There's so many things out there that we could potentially enjoy in this world. And we don't focus on that. We don't focus on what we like. And when you don't focus on what you like, which he's talking about, this common mistake, which he writes about half a page over here, right? Which he says comes from Christian sources. I guess it does. And, I heard this quoted, I read this over and over. Rav Chaim Volozhin, who wrote Nefesh HaChaim, a famous sefer, his father, Rav Yitzchak of Volozhin, always used to tell him, he said, remember, the whole point of this world is to do for another person. And I've heard this quoted, in various Musar shmuzin, and I'm always like, that's exactly what the opposite of what the Torah wants. The Torah wants you first to think about yourself. The Torah doesn't want you to think about the other person. Why does it care what you think about the other person? You have to care about yourself to find out what you like, who you are. It's very hard to do that. It's the hardest thing in the world. That's Avos Hashem. That's the mitzvah of Avos Hashem, which is the hardest mitzvah in the world. But that's really what it means, to love yourself, to find out what you like, to find out who you are. And then, when you find out who you are, right, which is based on your decision making, right, you can find, it's both. On the one hand, yes, it's up to you. You have to make the choices. But on the other hand, it's using the choices to reject those things that you don't like and find those things that you do like. That's natural. Love is a natural thing. Love is a feeling, it's an emotion. It's a natural thing. But because we have so many choices in life, we're confused in life, and the Yetzer Hara confuses us in life, we don't often get a chance to be in touch with our real selves, to naturally feel who we are. And that's the problem. So once you can fix that problem and you can find what you like, then you can transfer that over to your wife and have that relationship. And I believe the way to a successful marriage, to love your wife, is to see, right? It starts at liking her. Like means like you, right? The things that you in yourself are important and you're good at, and things that you like, right? Similarities is the way that attracts different people together. So find those qualities, the good qualities in your wife that are similar to you, things that you like in your wife, right? You have to look after you found out what you like. You have to look at your wife and say what things are positive about her. Does she look good, right? Maybe her face doesn't look good, but her body looks good. What about her personality? Maybe, you know, she's not the most interesting person. Maybe she's a quiet person. But on the other hand, she's fun to talk to in private. Find out about her personality and, our character traits. Sometimes, men get angry that the wives disrespect them. But, sometimes they're really nice character traits, wives. And, you have to find out about that. But the only way to know about these things is to first love yourself. Once you love yourself, then you can, after knowing what you love and what you don't love, then you can look into another person, and only really your wife, because the Torah doesn't expect you to love every person in the world or every Jew, is to see what positive qualities your wife has and to connect yourself to those qualities. Of course, since this is a book about marital intimacy, right? They call it to make love with your wife, right? The main time you make love with your wife is in the bedroom. That's creating love, and I believe the true way to do that is to find out in the bedroom what you like in the bedroom, right? What you like, and it's generally going to be what you like is what you like about your wife, about her face, about her body, in the bedroom. So, sometimes the woman's pretty, she's cute, right? She has a nice face. Sometimes she has a nice body. If she has a nice body, some parts of her body are nice. So you want to focus on those things that are positive that you enjoy in the bedroom. And it's funny that usually the things that you enjoy about your wife, those are the things when you kiss those things, when you caress those things, when you hug those things, give the most enjoyment to the woman, right? The most beautiful parts of the woman are things that she personally enjoys the most. When you touch those parts of her body, she enjoys it the most. That's the way it is. The things that men like to touch on a woman causes a woman to feel good, and things that a woman likes to touch on a man makes the man feel good. If you didn't know that, that's just the way it is. So, so that's the way Hashem made it. So, that's where it starts. It starts to make love in the bedroom, to focus on the positive, and that means also the part of your body, of your body and our face that you don't like, or don't attract you. Try to stay away from them, not to focus on them. There's other things you can do to help, with smells and things like that, and perfumes, and to not look at certain places or whatever. Just make sure you're focusing on the good and not on the bad, and that will help the natural love come through. And outside the bedroom, again, focus on the positive personality traits. You know, make it in a way, right? If your wife's a person that's very gregarious and likes to talk and like to have a good time, go out with her for dinner, have a lot of fun with her, go out to social parties, and go out to meals on Shabbos, and so you can have a dynamic where you're both enjoying being outgoing together, or even if she's outgoing and you're not outgoing, you can enjoy seeing her react to other people and make the conversation interesting. And if she's a quieter person, so then find time that you're private, you can speak together and you have a nice private conversation, because she does have nice personality on a more quiet basis, more one-to-one basis, more introverted basis. And her character traits also, the things that anger you the way she does, try to avoid those things. Don't if there are sore topics between you, don't bring them up, for no purpose. If there's a purpose that really bothering you, something's really bothering you, you can't take it, bring it up and deal with it. But if it's not, don't. A lot of times people just, because they hate just leads to more anger and more hate. They just keep on bringing up sore topics. Avoid sore topics. You start talking about a sore topic, stop talking about it. Focus on things you both enjoy together, enjoy doing together, and that's really what the Torah expects you. The Torah expects you to love two people: yourself, which is first, which is Avos Hashem, I believe, and then secondly, your wife, because those are the only two people really have time in the world to love. Hope you enjoy. You don't have to love your children. You don't have to love your parents. There's no mitzvah to love your parents. The mitzvah of loving your Hashem is loving yourself, and the mitzvah of loving your wife is ahavta re'echa. Hope you enjoyed today's chapter. We'll talk more about love going forward in marriage in the next chapter. Until then, see you. Have a good night.